15 athletes who married hotties half their size. Athletes come in all shapes and sizes, depending on what sport they're involved in, of course. In some sports, it's alright have a bit of a paunch or to not look like an Adonis, but in others, it's not acceptable to be flabby. You've got to be a fantastic physical specimen, in tremendous shape, fit and healthy. That's one thing you can generally control your weight and physique. But height is something that can't be helped. You're either tall or you're not. Some are blessed with height and it gives them an advantage in certain sports, like in basketball for example. It all boils down to genetics, being that tall and some may say, lanky, can't be helped, not that the tall athletes who are earning megabucks are complaining. So, being taller than average is great in some aspects, especially when it comes to playing pro sports and earning a paycheck. But in other areas of life, it can come as a real hindrance. One of those areas of day-to-day life where being tall might not be such a good thing, is dating and finding love. Not many women want to go out with someone who, when standing side by side, is looming over them, and appears to be twice as big as them. Forget going out with someone like that, many wouldn't even want to be pictured next to these gargantuan figures, just because it's not really a great look. But for these athletes, luckily for them, height hasn't been a factor in their dating lives as their current partners have been able to see past their height, and how small they look in comparison. It's pretty comical seeing these athletes with their petite wives or girlfriends, just because of the height difference, not that they seem to care, they're dating hotties so, short or tall, these 15 athletes can count themselves lucky. 1. Youll, Amir, Klitschko, Hayden Panettiere. This really is the superstar couple on this list. It's also the couple that have had a lot of mockery come their way, due to the height and overall size difference between the two. Youll, Amir Klitschko is a legend in the sport of boxing. His style might not be attractive, he might not be the most flashy, entertaining fighter, but he's been schooled in the sweet science of boxing, and when he laces up those gloves, his technique's effective. This has enabled him to become one of the most successful heavyweight champions of all time. He's also one of the fittest. You're not going to see Youll enter the ring with his gut hanging out anytime soon, as is the case with most of the heavyweights out there nowadays. He's ripped to shreds, lean and muscular, and all of that size is packed onto his 6 feet 6 inches frame, making him an imposing figure in the ring. Youll and actress Hayden Panettiere began dating back in 2009. Hayden's known for being rather small and petite, so it was kind of comical when we began seeing the two cozy up to each other at his fights and at various events. They split in 2011, but a couple of years later, they were back and fighting fit. Their first child was born a year later, they're now engaged, and they make an adorable couple. Fans just love seeing Hayden ringside, and no doubt she'll be there cheering on her hubby at his upcoming title fight. 2. Dirk Nowitzki, Jessica Olson. German basketball player Dirk Nowitzki has been around for years, since 1994, and during this time he's amassed some pretty impressive stats, and is regarded to be one of the best power forwards in the history of the game. To be a power forward, well, the name of that position's pretty self-explanatory. You need to be versatile on the court, have a number of skills, and be powerful driving forward, and boy is Dirk that. At 7 feet and 245 pounds, Dirk's powerful all right, and these physical attributes have certainly held him in good stead throughout his playing days. Dirk can thank basketball for a lot, including being the sport that introduced him to his beautiful wife, Jessica Olson. They met at a charity event where Dirk was auctioned off for charity and agreed to go on 2 dates, but the woman he really wanted to go on a date with was working in the art gallery. They married in 2012 and have built up a nice little family for themselves. Everything appears to be roses. 3. Peter Crouch Abbey Clancy. From American football to what the rest of the world calls football, soccer, English Premier League player Peter Crouch is next on this list. Since this article's about tall individuals, for those of you who don't know your football, you'd probably expect Peter's position to be between the sticks. After all, goalkeepers are generally the tallest guys on the field. But it's also handy to be a giant at the other end of the pitch, up front, and that's where Peter's earned his living, not only for a number of top Premier League sides, but for the English national team too. Due to his 6 feet 7 inches frame, Crouch, kind of a funny last name considering his height, is often used as a target man, with people whipping in crosses and expecting him to get on the end of them, or certainly to make his presence felt, a role he's been very successful in. A lot of people also deem him to be incredibly successful in terms of his dating life. He managed to get hitched to a woman like Abbey Clancy. Let's face it, Crouchy isn't the best looking bloke in football, but lingerie and catwalk model, and you can add TV presenter to that too, Abbey Clancy is an absolute stunner. She's beautiful beyond belief and is the perfect size for a model, at 5 feet 9 inches. But is still dwarfed by her hubby. 4. Joe Flacco Dana Grady. Joe Flacco's a pretty tall dude for a guy who plays in the NFL. He's an American football quarterback for the Baltimore Ravens, and being 6 feet 6 inches has certainly allowed him to pack a considerable amount of size onto his frame, which is always going to come in handy on the football field where size and physical prowess is a must. Joe has spent his entire career with Baltimore, which is pretty amazing considering players tend to be traded left, right, and center and drafted to new franchises. It's certainly meant he's been able to have continuity in his life, set up base in Baltimore, and make the city his home, which has come in handy because it's enabled him to meet and marry his beautiful wife, Dana, and raise his family in Baltimore without being constantly shifted about the place. Dana Grady's another one who must get a crook in the neck living day-to-day life with her hubby. Joe's tall for a football player, but Dana's titchy, although she's super hot and he's been voted as being the most attractive player in the NFL, so they certainly fit. 5. Pau Gasol Silvia Lopez Castro. 7-footer Pau Gasol is a Spanish pro basketball player and is certainly one of the best around, winning a ton of stuff and achieving plenty over the course of a glittering career to date. He's also one of the most liked guys in the NBA, he steers clear from controversy, and is an incredibly intelligent athlete, we'd argue one of the most intelligent guys in the NBA. He was in medical school before he left because his basketball career was gaining momentum. Fun fact, he can speak 5 languages, and loves visiting piano concerts and operas, not your average basketball player. You can therefore understand why he'd be quite a catch, and it was Silvia Lopez Castro who caught him and the pair began dating. Silvia's a cheerleader for Dream Cheers, a traveling dance troupe that performs at sports events. She's hot beyond belief, super fit, and is also a diminutive figure compared to her hubby. 6. Nikolai Valuev. Big Show and Khali might be massive, huge scary guys, but we'd say Nikolai Valuev would have to be on par with them. He's just massive, standing in at 7 feet 2 inches and weighing 328 pounds, and those of you who don't know your sports history may think that the reason I've put Valuev and Big Show and Khali in the same bracket, aside from the obvious similarities when it comes to their physical attributes, is because they're all wrestlers. But Valuev was actually a pro boxer, a heavyweight in every sense of the word, which is really scary because boxing is actually a real sport, whereas wrestling, for all extents and purposes, is scripted. People were standing toe-to-toe in the ring with this monster and were getting punched by him. It's scary to think what his opponents went through. Galina is his other half, and she does actually seem to be half his size. She really is tiny compared to her hubby, although most people would be standing side by side with someone of Valuev's epic proportions. 7. The Great Khali Harminder Kaur. If the Big Show is one of the biggest, most imposing guys in wrestling in the world, or at least in sports entertainment in general for that matter, the Great Khali, Dalip Singh Rana, isn't too far behind. He's right up there in terms of being one of the biggest mass monsters walking this planet, and he's not the most handsome of blokes either. Great for wrestling, not so good when it comes to trying to find love. Dalip suffers from gigantism, which, when he was growing up in a very poor area of rural Punjab, India, meant that unfortunately he was considered to be a bit of a freak, and not in a good way. Having that kind of a stigma, you can imagine that it would have been pretty hard to date. But Dalip didn't have to worry about that. He comes from a traditional Indian family, so an arranged marriage was always going to be on the cards, and that's what happened in 2002, before he became known to the world as the Great Khali in WWE, when he got married to a woman named Harminder Kaur. Being stoutly religious and being from a traditional family, I don't reckon Dalip would take too kindly to hearing his wife being referred to as a hottie, but she is an attractive woman. Dalip certainly thinks so, and that's all that matters.